The emergency beacon screamed across 17 star systems before reaching the Galactic Council's Emergency Response Center on Nexus Prime. Communications Officer Zelith's crystalline skin turned pale blue as she decoded the desperate message from the Kythera colony. "Hi, Commander!" she called across the pristine white command center, her voice trembling. "The Kythera system is under attack! The Vorthak hive has broken through their defenses!" High Commander Vraxton's 6 eyes focused on the holographic display showing the distant colony world. Red warning indicators flashed across the star map like bleeding wounds. The Kythera were a peaceful species, their butterfly-like wings and gentle nature making them beloved throughout the galaxy. They had no military, no weapons of war. They were artists, philosophers, and healers. "How long do they have?" Vraxton asked, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. 48 standard hours before the hive reaches their population centers, Zelith replied. "Maybe less." The Vorthak were living nightmares. Insectoid monsters that consumed entire worlds, leaving nothing but empty husks floating in space. Their chittering masses moved like a dark tide across the galaxy, and no conventional military had ever stopped them once they began feeding. "Alert all available fleets," Vraxton commanded. "Send everything we have." "Sir," another officer spoke up nervously, "our nearest battle groups are 6 days away. Even at maximum hyperspace velocity, we cannot reach them in time." The command center fell silent except for the soft hum of computers and the distant beacon's repeating cry for help. 3 billion Kythera souls hung in the balance, and the galaxy's protectors were too far away to save them. "There is one option," Zelith said quietly. "The humans have a response fleet in the neighboring sector." A collective shudder ran through the command staff. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 2 years ago, and their reputation preceded them like a storm front. They came from a death world called Earth, where everything from the weather to the wildlife tried to kill them daily. Their own sun bombarded them with radiation that would cook most species alive, yet they thrived. The Deathworlders. Vraxton's mandibles clicked nervously. "Are you certain they're our only option?" "Yes, sir. The UES Retribution and her escort fleet are conducting training exercises near the Helios Nebula. They could reach Kythera in 36 hours. Vraxton had met humans only once before during the Council integration ceremonies. They stood barely 2 meters tall, covered in pale skin that seemed impossibly fragile. Yet something in their small, forward-facing eyes had made his warrior's instincts scream danger. They were predators, apex hunters from a world where only the strongest survived. The other Council species whispered about human military doctrine. They didn't just defeat enemies, they annihilated them so completely that the very memory of resistance died. Their ships bristled with weapons that violated 3 separate galactic treaties on excessive force. Their soldiers trained in conditions that would kill most beings within hours. "Sir," Zelith pressed gently, "the Kythera children." Vraxton closed his primary eyes. The Kythera nurseries were works of art, crystalline gardens where the young learned to sing before they could walk. The thought of Vorthak claws tearing through those sacred spaces made his stomach turn. "Send the message to the human fleet," he decided. Tell them the situation is desperate." "And if they refuse?" another officer asked. Vraxton looked at the star map, watching the red tide of Vorthak ships creep closer to the peaceful world. "Then 3 billion gentle souls will die, and the galaxy will have lost something beautiful forever." The transmission took 12 minutes to reach the human fleet. Admiral Sarah Chen was reviewing tactical reports in her ready room when the priority message arrived. Her aide, Lieutenant Torres, knocked on the doorframe. "Admiral, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate assistance." Chen looked up from her reports. At 52, she had silver threading through her black hair and scars on her hands from her early days as a Marine. What's the situation? The Vorthak hive is attacking the Kithara colony. The Council fleets can't reach them in time. We're the only ones close enough to help. Chen pulled up the tactical display, her experienced eyes taking in the numbers. The Vorthak force was massive, 3 hive ships and their escorts. The Kithara had no defenses worth mentioning. It would be a slaughter. What do we know about the Vorthak? She asked. Insectoid species, hive mind, extremely aggressive. They consume biological matter to fuel their reproduction. Intelligence rates them as a Class 9 threat. Chen nodded slowly. Class 9 meant planet killer. These weren't raiders or pirates. They were a force of nature, unstoppable and merciless. The kind of enemy that made veteran soldiers wake up screaming. Admiral, Torres continued carefully, the Council message specifically mentions that the Kithara are peaceful. They have no military capability. Chen stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of innocent beings were about to die horrible deaths. She thought of her own daughter back on Earth, safe in her university dormitory, studying xenobiology because she wanted to help alien species. Get me a channel to the fleet, she ordered. Minutes later, the faces of her ship captains appeared on the holographic display. Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer UES Vengeance, Captain Kim of the cruiser UES Defiance, and Captain Okafor of the assault carrier UES Valor. Good officers, all of them. Veterans who had seen action against pirates and hostile species. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen began, we have a situation. The Vorthak hive is about to wipe out 3 billion civilians on Kithara Prime. The Galactic Council has requested our assistance. Captain Rodriguez frowned. Admiral, the Vorthak are rated as Class 9 threats. We've never faced anything like that before. I'm aware of the risks, Chen replied, but we're talking about 3 billion innocent lives. The Kithara are artists and healers. They've never hurt anyone. What are our orders? Captain Kim asked. Chen looked at each of her captains. These men and women who had sworn oaths to protect the innocent and defend the weak. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens people under human protection. With respect, Admiral, Captain Okafor interjected. We're just one battle group. The Vorthak have 3 hive ships. Chen smiled, and her captains recognized the expression. It was the smile of a human apex predator about to hunt. Then it's a fair fight. Signal the fleet. All ships, maximum burn to Kithara Prime. We have 36 hours to prepare for war. As the human fleet changed course, their fusion engines burning like miniature stars, the galaxy held its breath. The Deathworlders were coming, and for the first time in the war against the Vorthak, someone was going to fight back. On Kithara Prime, the first refugees were already fleeing the outer settlements. Their beautiful songs had turned to wails of terror as the dark ships appeared in their peaceful skies. But deep in space, racing toward them at speeds that bent physics to the breaking point, Admiral Chen was planning something the Vorthak had never encountered before. Humanity was coming, and they were very, very angry. Admiral Chen stood in the Combat Information Center of the UES Retribution, watching the tactical display as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kithara system. What she saw made her jaw clench in controlled fury. 3 massive Vorthak hive ships hung in orbit around Kithara Prime like tumors against the planet's beautiful blue-green surface. Each ship was the size of a small moon, their dark chitin hulls pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Smaller ships swarmed around them like angry insects, already beginning bombardment runs on the major cities. Status report, Chen ordered. 3 hive ships confirmed, Admiral, reported Commander Walsh, her tactical officer. Approximately 200 escort vessels. They're using some kind of acid weapon to dissolve the planetary defense satellites. Chen watched in disgust as streams of green liquid ate through the Cathara's few orbital installations. On the planet below, she could see the crystal spires of their cities beginning to darken and crack. The peaceful Cathara were dying down there, their beautiful butterfly wings burning in acid rain. "Communications, get me a channel to the lead hive ship," Chen commanded. "Admiral, we don't think they use traditional communications," the Comms officer replied nervously. "Intelligence suggests they operate as a collective mind." "Then find a way to talk to them. I want to give them one chance to leave." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Everyone knew humans had strange ideas about honor and giving enemies chances to surrender, even when those enemies were genocidal monsters. It took 10 minutes to establish contact. When the channel opened, the sound that came through made several officers step backward in revulsion. It was like listening to a million insects chittering at once, overlaid with wet organic sounds that suggested things better left unimagined. "Vorthak Collective," Chen spoke clearly into the microphone. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. You are attacking a peaceful world under Galactic Council protection. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The chittering grew louder, almost mocking. Then a voice spoke, layered with harmonics that suggested many beings speaking as one. "Small flesh things from the death world. We know of you. Your planet will be consumed when we finish here. Your larvae will feed our young." Chen's expression never changed, but every human on the bridge felt their blood turn cold. The Vorthak weren't just threatening the Cathara, they were promising to come for Earth next. "Wrong answer," Chen said quietly, then cut the channel. She turned to her weapons officer. "Captain Martinez, status on our special packages?" Martinez grinned, showing teeth that several alien observers had once described as disturbingly sharp for an herbivore. "All experimental weapons are armed and ready, Admiral. The boys in research and development are eager to field test their toys." Chen nodded. Humanity had been preparing for threats like this since they first learned about the hostile universe beyond Earth. While other species built beautiful art and studied philosophy, humans had been designing increasingly creative ways to kill things that wanted to kill them. "Signal the fleet," Chen commanded. "Execute Operation Death Wish. Show them why predators don't hunt in packs for fun." The 4 human ships spread out into attack formation, their movement pattern completely unlike anything other species used. Where most galactic navies moved in rigid formations, the humans flowed like a pack of wolves, each ship covering the others while maintaining maximum firepower concentration. The Vorthak noticed them coming and responded with contempt. 100 escort ships peeled away from the planet to intercept the tiny human force. Their plasma weapons began charging, filling space with deadly energy that had melted through countless planetary defenses. "Incoming plasma barrage," reported the sensor officer. "Multiple target locks." "Evasive maneuvers," Chen ordered calmly. "Pattern 7. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for decades. The human ships didn't just dodge the plasma bolts. They danced between them like leaves in a hurricane. Their pilots pulled maneuvers that should have killed everyone aboard, subjecting their crews to G-forces that would have liquefied most species. But humans came from a world where they had evolved to survive anything. Their bodies were ridiculously over-engineered for survival, capable of functioning under stress that killed other beings outright. What seemed like impossible piloting to the Vorthak was just another Tuesday for the Deathworld veterans. "Target acquired," Martinez reported, firing Hellbore missiles. The missiles that launched from the UES Retribution weren't standard ship killers. They were humanity's answer to the question, what if we need to kill something really, really big? Each missile carried a miniaturized fusion warhead wrapped in experimental matter disruptors. The first missile struck a Vorthak escort ship and simply erased it from existence. One moment it was there, firing plasma at the human fleet. The next moment, there was only empty space where the ship had been, as if it had never existed at all. The Vorthak collective mind reeled in shock. Nothing in their memory banks had prepared them for weapons that deleted matter from reality. Their chittering communications filled with what could only be described as confusion and the first hint of fear. "Target the next group," Chen ordered. "Captain Kim, begin strafing runs with the Nova cannons." The UES Defiance swooped toward a cluster of Vorthak ships, her weapons ports opening to reveal the most terrifying weapons in human military doctrine. Nova cannons were designed to crack planets, concentrated starfire that could melt through anything known to galactic science. The streams of plasma that erupted from the human cruiser were several orders of magnitude hotter than the core of most stars. They cut through Vorthak ships like a sword through paper, leaving glowing metal that cooled to empty husks in seconds. But it was Captain Okafor's assault carrier that really got the Vorthak's attention. The UES Valor launched her fighter squadrons, and the galaxy got its first look at human aerospace superiority in action. Human fighter pilots were insane by galactic standards. They flew ships that pulled maneuvers at speeds that should have killed them instantly. Their reflexes had been honed by evolution on a world where everything was trying to eat them, then enhanced by training in conditions that most beings couldn't survive. The fighters swarmed through the Vorthak formation like angry hornets, their pulse cannons turning escort ships into expanding clouds of debris. They worked in perfect coordination, each pilot covering his wingman while the squadron worked together like a single deadly organism. "Admiral," reported Captain Rodriguez from the UES Vengeance, "the hive ships are responding. They're launching boarding pods." Chen watched as thousands of organic projectiles erupted from the massive hive ships, each one carrying dozens of Vorthak warriors. The aliens were trying to use their traditional tactic of overwhelming enemies through sheer numbers and vicious close combat. "Perfect," Chen said with that predator's smile. "All ships, prepare to receive boarders. Activate the internal defense systems." What the Vorthak didn't know was that human ships were designed with boarding actions in mind. The corridors could be flooded with everything from tear gas to lethal radiation at the touch of a button. Blast doors could segment the ship into dozens of killing zones, and most importantly, human Marines had been training for close-quarters combat since before they could walk. The boarding pods slammed into the human ships like organic battering rams, disgorging streams of Vorthak warriors. Each alien stood 3 meters tall, with razor-sharp claws and mandibles that could bite through steel. They were the apex predators of dozens of conquered worlds. They lasted exactly 12 seconds against human Marines in powered armor. The corridors of the human ships became slaughterhouses, as the Deathworld soldiers did what they did best: adapt, improvise, and kill anything that threatened their pack. The Vorthak found themselves facing enemies that moved faster, hit harder, and fought with a tactical intelligence that their hive mind couldn't predict. "Boarding actions repelled," reported the security chief. "All Vorthak forces eliminated." Chen nodded and turned her attention back to the tactical display. The escort fleet was in ruins, but the 3 hive ships were still intact and still bombarding the planet below. Time to end this. "Signal all ships," she commanded. "Prepare for close assault. We're going to show these things why humans don't believe in impossible odds." As the 4 human warships accelerated toward the massive hive ships, Admiral Chen allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. The Vorthak were about to learn the most important lesson in the galaxy: never threaten something a human has decided to protect. The 3 Vorthak hive ships turned their full attention to the approaching human fleet, their massive biocannons charging with enough energy to level continents. Each ship was a living fortress, grown rather than built, with weapons that had cracked the defenses of 100 worlds. Admiral Chen stood calmly on her bridge as proximity alarms screamed and targeting systems locked onto her ships. "Distance to target?" 50,000 kilometers and closing, reported Commander Walsh. The hive ships are powering up their main weapons. Time until they can fire? 30 seconds, Admiral. Chen nodded. Perfect timing. Captain Martinez, is the Planet Buster ready? Martinez's face went pale. Admiral, that weapon is still experimental. We don't know what the full effects might be. I know exactly what the effects will be, Chen replied coldly. Dead Vorthak and live Kithara. Arm the weapon. The Planet Buster was humanity's ultimate answer to overwhelming force. Designed in secret laboratories on Earth, it was based on principles that other species considered impossible. Where most weapons relied on raw energy or kinetic force, the Planet Buster attacked the fundamental forces that held matter together. Weapon armed, Martinez reported reluctantly. Target locked on the lead hive ship. Fire. The weapon that launched from the UES Retribution was barely visible, a small projectile that moved at 90% of light speed. It struck the first hive ship exactly amidships and simply stopped. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The massive alien vessel continued its approach, biocannons still charging. Then reality hiccuped. The hive ship began to collapse inward, its kilometer-long hull compressing as if invisible hands were crushing it like a tin can. The effect spread outward in a perfect sphere, creating a gravity well so intense that space-time itself began to bend. Smaller Vorthak ships caught in the field were pulled apart at the molecular level. Target destroyed, reported the weapons officer in an awed whisper. The second hive ship's biocannons finally fired, sending streams of acid and plasma toward the human fleet. But Chen had anticipated this. All ships, emergency scatter pattern. Deploy chaff and flares. The human vessels split apart like dandelion seeds, each one trailing clouds of metallic particles and energy signatures designed to confuse targeting systems. The Vorthak weapons, designed to track large formations, lost lock and fired harmlessly into empty space. Captain Kim, Chen ordered, take the Defiance and flank right. Target their weapon clusters. Captain Rodriguez, Vengeance goes left and hits their sensor arrays. Captain Okafor, Valor comes straight up their middle and deploys the Marines. Admiral, Okafor protested, we can't land Marines on a hive ship. The radiation levels alone would kill them. Chen's smile turned predatory. Not our Marines. Deploy the Berserker units. The Berserker program was humanity's darkest military secret. Volunteers underwent genetic modification and cybernetic enhancement that pushed them beyond the limits of human endurance. They could survive in hard vacuum, fight in radioactive environments, and keep functioning long after injuries that would kill normal humans. Most importantly, they were completely, utterly fearless. The assault pods that launched from the UES Valor were nothing like the organic projectiles the Vorthak used. They were armored shells filled with the most dangerous killers humanity had ever produced, soldiers who had volunteered to become living weapons in defense of their species. The pods punched through the hive ship's bio-armor like bullets through flesh, delivering their cargo deep into the alien vessel's vital organs. What emerged from those pods would haunt Vorthak nightmares for generations to come. The Berserkers moved through the hive ship's corridors like forces of nature, their powered armor allowing them to tear through bulkheads and their enhanced reflexes letting them dodge attacks that moved faster than sound. They didn't just fight the Vorthak, they hunted them, using tactics learned in Earth's deadliest environments to turn the aliens' own ship against them. Admiral, reported the communications officer, we're receiving transmissions from inside the second hive ship. The Berserkers have reached the control center. On the tactical display, the second hive ship suddenly stopped firing. Its bioluminescent veins began flickering erratically, and sections of its hull started venting atmosphere and organic fluids. Berserker leader to Admiral Chen, came a calm voice over the comm. Package delivered. The ship's nervous system is severed. She's dead in the water. Chen nodded with satisfaction. Well done, Sergeant. Extraction in 10 minutes. But the third hive ship wasn't waiting for the humans to finish with its companion. It began to glow with an ominous purple light, its entire hull pulsing with energy that made every sensor on the human ships scream warnings. "Admiral," Commander Walsh called urgently, "that ship is building up massive energy levels. I've never seen readings like this." Chen's expression turned grim. The Vorthak were preparing to use a weapon of last resort, something that would probably destroy the human fleet and the planet below. She had one card left to play. "All ships, form up on the Retribution. Prepare for ram speed." "Admiral," Walsh protested, "that's suicide. Even if we damage the hive ship, we'll be destroyed in the process." "Sometimes," Chen said quietly, "that's what it takes." She opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All hands, this is Admiral Chen. The enemy is preparing to destroy everything in this system. We have one chance to stop them. It's been an honor serving with you all." But before the human ships could begin their final charge, something unexpected happened. The damaged hive ship that the Berserkers had disabled began to move again, turning its weapons toward its companion. "Admiral," came Sergeant Morrison's voice from inside the alien vessel, "we've managed to take control of the ship's weapon systems. The biological neural networks are quite sophisticated, but they're no match for human ingenuity." Chen watched in amazement as the second hive ship opened fire on the third, its biocannons tearing into its sister ship's hull. The Vorthak collective mind reeled in confusion as one of its own vessels turned against it. "All ships," Chen ordered, "target the damaged areas on the third hive ship. Pour everything we've got into those wounds." The human fleet opened fire with every weapon they possessed. Nova cannons, fusion torpedoes, particle beams, and kinetic penetrators all focused on the weakened sections of the hive ship's hull. The combined firepower was enough to crack a moon, and it found its mark with devastating effect. The third hive ship tried to respond, but its systems were overloading from the damage and the psychic feedback of losing one of its companion vessels. Its final shot went wide, missing the human fleet entirely and instead striking the already dead second hive ship. The explosion that followed lit up the entire system like a second sun. When the glare finally faded, nothing remained of the Vorthak fleet except expanding clouds of organic debris. "All enemy vessels destroyed," reported Commander Walsh. "The system is secure." Chen allowed herself a moment of relief before opening a channel to the planet below. "Kithara Prime, this is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Navy. The threat has been eliminated. You are safe." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The crystalline voices of the Kithara rose in harmony, a song of gratitude and joy that brought tears to the eyes of every human who heard it. They sang of the terror in the dark, of despair and approaching death, and then of hope arriving on wings of fire. "Admiral," the communications officer said softly, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council wants to know how we defeated a Class 9 threat with only 4 ships." Chen looked out at the beautiful blue-green world they had saved, where 3 billion gentle souls were once again free to create art and music and beauty. "Tell them," she said, "that sometimes the galaxy needs monsters to fight monsters, and humanity has been preparing for this fight since we first looked up at the stars." As the human fleet took up protective orbit around Kithara Prime, word of their victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Deathworlders had done the impossible. They had stopped the unstoppable Vorthak hive, but more importantly, they had kept a promise. When peaceful beings called for aid, humanity had answered with everything they had. The galaxy would never be the same. On distant worlds, other species looked up at their own skies and felt a new sense of security. Somewhere out there, the humans were watching, and if the darkness ever came for them, they would not face it alone. The age of human protection had begun, and the galaxy was safer for it.